Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Divya. Welcome to Visual Vibes. In this Python course, I'm gonna teach you everything that you need to learn to start coding with Python. This course doesn't cost you anything, it's totally free for you. But if you would like to help me out, then you can increase its reach by hitting a like button, leave a random comment down below, share, and subscribe to my channel for more videos. Thanks in advance, and I really appreciate it. Without getting any delay, let's jump right in. I came up with two interesting topics in Python that includes Lambda and higher order functions. As like every time, this time also I would like to mention you one thing. If this is your first visit to my channel or if you are a beginner to the Python course, then I would like to highly recommend you to check out the earlier sessions of this video first before you get into the newer concepts for a clear and better understanding as well as to follow some sequence. So let me first talk about Lambda functions in Python. In our previous sessions, we have seen about functions in Python, right? More likely, we can have seen normal functions in Python that usually define with def keyword. So in the category of functions, we have these Lambda functions as well. So these Lambda functions are small, anonymous, and restricted functions, which are used for very simpler operations for a short period of time that do not require any function name. So that's why, since these functions do not require a function name, so these Lambda functions are also known as anonymous functions in Python. And these Lambda functions usually consist of three essential parts that includes Lambda keyword followed by the parameters and function body. We usually declare normal functions with def keyword, right? But these Lambda functions are usually defined with Lambda keyword. Like how we have parameters and function body in our normal functions, these Lambda functions as well do have parameters and function body. And when it comes to syntax, these Lambda functions are usually defined with the Lambda keyword at the start, followed by the parameters, separated by comma, and then colon, followed by expression or function body. So in our normal functions, we have a def keyword followed by the function name, followed by the parameters inside the parenthesis, and the colon at the end of the statement, followed by the body of statements inside the function. So these Lambda functions and normal functions looks like same, but only some differences are there. Like normal functions go for some line of statements, but these Lambda functions are usually defined in one line only. That's why we can call these Lambda functions as small functions. Like that whole function definition will go in one line only. And we need to remember 4 points while using these Lambda functions. So first one is about like these functions can have any number of parameters. Like and we can pass n number of parameters whenever we are defining this Lambda function. There is no restriction on the parameters. So, but the parameters are need to be passed, so follow separated by the comma. And function body can contains only one expression. So whenever we go with Lambda functions, we need to have only one function body. So like in here in the syntax, we have expression, right? So in place of this expression, we need to have this function body. So this function only can have only one function body. Whereas in our normal functions, we can define a number of body statements inside the function, but this Lambda function only can have only one expression. It is not allowed to have a more number of function bodies. And it returns the result automatically, no need to use return keyword. We usually need to use the return keyword in normal functions in order to return the result of that function, right, to the function call. Whereas when it comes to Lambda function, we don't have any return keyword. So that simplifies the Lambda function definition. It automatically returns the result. We don't need to use any return keyword or yield keyword, something kind of like that. And it is often passed as an argument to higher order functions. So in our next slide, we are going to see what are these higher order functions. So after knowing about higher order functions, and we will also see how we can pass these Lambda functions as an argument to those higher order functions. Now let's see the example, how we can make use of this Lambda function in the form of code. So here in this example, I have declared one variable wherein I have defined the Lambda definition, followed by the Lambda keyword, followed by the two parameters named x and y, colon, followed by the expression or function body. So this x and y, x into y is the expression that I am going to execute while this lambda function is called. So here you can see this lambda function definition only can have one expression here, that is x and y. So like this, I have defined this lambda function and I have stored, and I want to store the result, like whatever the result that is going to return back, I want to store it in this result variable. And in the second line, I printed the statement saying that result is, and I have given the call the function. In our normal function, we need to call the function with the help of function name by passing the parameters or without passing the parameters based on the function definition, right? But these lambda functions are anonymous functions. They do not have any function name. So how we can make a function call means, so whatever the lambda function result is going to store in the variable, so with the help of that variable only, we need to make a function call. So this lambda function result is going to store in this result variable. So with the help of this variable, we're going to make a function call by passing the parameters. Since this lambda function definition requires 2 parameters, so I was making a function call like this by passing the values 2 and 3 to this lambda function. So finally, when this code gets executed, it will print the result. Result is 6. 3 into 2, 6. So like this, we can make use of these lambda functions whenever we need to define any functions that contains only one expression. If we want to make it very simple, then in one-line statements, so whenever you want to use one-line functions, then you can easily go with this lambda functions definition. Now let's see about higher order functions in Python. In terms of function definition and function calling, but a bit different when it comes to properties. So higher order functions are also the functions that either takes one or more functions as its parameters in function definition or returns a function as its result. So in our code, if any function is taking a function as an parameter, or if any function is returning another function in its result means, then we can say those functions as higher order functions. And we have some properties for these higher order functions. First property is a function can be stored in a variable, like how we have stored lambda functions in a variable. See, here also same, we can store higher order functions in a variable, and a function can be passed as a parameter to another function. So while defining a higher order function, we can pass a function as a parameter to another function. And these functions can be stored in the form of lists, hash tables, etc. A list, we already know, list is a collection of items. Hash table is a data structure that stores values in the form of key value pairs. So for this property, so according to this property, function can be stored in the form of lists and hash tables, right? So for this property, I have given one example as well, like how we can store these higher order functions in the form of lists and hash tables. So here you can see in this example, I have defined two functions, function named add and function named multiply. So in the function named add, I was returning a lambda function, which is a function, right? So in this function, what I was doing, I was performing the addition for the variables x and y, or parameters x and y. Similarly, in the multiply function, I was returning a function back that is performing multiplication between two parameters x and y. So now only we have discussed, right? Any function that returns function as its result, we can call those functions as a higher order function. So these two functions are returning the lambda functions back. So these two functions, I can say these belong to higher order functions. So these functions can be stored in the form of lists, hash tables, etc. So like this, you can store these higher order functions in the form of lists, add, multiply. When it comes to hash tables means hash tables stores the data in the form of key value pairs. So the only data that we have the values that are stored in the form of key value pairs is dictionary. So like this, we can store the values, the higher order functions in dictionary. So lastly, we have curly brace closed actually. So like this, we can store the values in hash tables. And the last property is about function can be returned from a function. Like here itself, we are seeing like this function is returning another lambda function. This is also a function, and this function is returning another function. So these are the 4 important properties that higher order functions are having. And now let's see how we can pass function as a parameter. So here you can see in this example, I have defined 2 functions. One function name is square, that is taking one parameter, and I was returning square of it. So whatever the parameter it was taking, I want to return the square of that number. So just that's why I have given return num into num. And another function I have defined, which is apply function. And you can see in this function, I was passing a function as a parameter and a value. So here, whatever the func name we have, right? This is a function I was passing. I want to pass, and then one value I am passing. So inside this function, what I was doing, I was calling this function. Whatever the function I have got, like this function got as a parameter, I was calling this function by passing this value, and I was storing that result in the response, and finally I was returning this response. So these are the 2 separate functions. Like separate functions I have defined here, wherein one function is taking parameter in its parenthesis, whereas another function is taking function as a parameter within the parenthesis. So after defining these functions, what I was doing, I was calling one function, which is I was calling this apply function, in which I need to pass 2 parameters, right? So one parameter I need to pass is function, and another parameter is value. So the function, what I was here, the function square I was passing as a function to this apply function. So we have a square function, right? So this function I was passing as a parameter to this apply function, and the value as 5. So whenever Python compiler executes this line of statement, what it will do means, first it will call the apply function, and inside this apply function we are passing square as another function to it, and the value as a 5. So inside this function, here what we are doing, we are calling this function by passing this value. So this function is nothing but what? This function only, right? So while calling this function, we are calling the square function. So whenever this function is called, so this value is passed here, and value is how much here? 5, the square of num, and it will finally return num into num, 5 square 24. Okay, so this result will be stored in this response. This result will be sent back to this function, and it is stored in this response. Finally, we are returning the response, and this response is stored in this result, and then we are finally printing the result as the result is result. So the output looks like this. The result is different. So this is a simple example that is defining, that is explaining how we can pass function as one of the parameter to another function. So when you see these 2 functions, here the first function named square is a simple function that is taking a parameter. But when you see this function, apply function, this function is taking function as a parameter as well as value. So since this function is taking function as a parameter, we can call this function as higher order function. So this is how we can make use of higher order functions whenever we want to function as a parameter to the functions. Now let's see example for returning a function. So higher order functions that either takes function as a parameter or returns a function as its result, right? So now let's see how the higher order function is returning function as a result. Here you can see in this example, I have defined one function named greet underscore website, where this function is taking one parameter called name. So inside this function, I was declared another function named greet. So this function is taking message as its parameter, and what this greet function is doing, inside this greet function, I was returning finally as one statement saying that message, like this is the placeholder for the message variable, and this is the placeholder for the name variable. So whatever the values that comes to this function will get replaced, and then the statement will be returned back when a greet function is called. Right? Inside this function, I have this statement. And out of this function, what I was doing, I was returning greet. So here greet is what? Greet is nothing but is a function, nested function. So this main function is returning nested function or a simple function as its result. So this is how this function is this function greet underscore website is defined. Since this function greet underscore website is returning greet, that is nested function back, so this function we can call as a higher order function, and the function defined inside this higher function is nested function. Now let's see how we can call this higher order function. So here I was calling this higher order function by passing the name, and whatever this function returns the result, that result I want to store it in this variable greet underscore user. So normally what this greet underscore website will return, it will return a function, right? So it will return a greet function. So greet function will be stored in the greet user variable. So this finally this greet user variable is holding greet function. What I was doing, so in order to print the result that is going to get from this greet function, I was using the print statement, and inside this using this greet user, since this variable is holding the function, so in order to call the greet function I was passing the message as welcome, right? So whenever this Python compiler will execute this statement, so this passes this message, welcome message, to this greet function, since this greet user is holding the greet function. So this function is being called and this message is passed to this greet function, and inside this function we have a statement called message comma name. Message and the name placeholders are substituted with the actual values, which is welcome, message is welcome, and name is John, so that in the output we can see like welcome John. So this is how higher order function can be capable of returning a function as its result. So now we have seen how function can be passed as as a parameter to another function, and how a function, how a higher order function can return a function as its result. Now let's see how we can make use of these higher order functions using built-in higher order functions, including lambda functions. In Python, we have some, so like this example and the example in the previous slide, or I have defined using the custom function, custom higher order functions. But Python also providing some built-in higher order functions for us, so that we can directly pass function as an argument to those functions, and then we can get results. Right? We can have so many built-in higher order functions, but in this, for simpler understanding, in this session, I am going to give a clear idea using two built-in higher order functions that includes map and filter, along with including the lambda functions. Like whenever I was discussing lambda functions, right? So there we have one property, like I have told you, right? We will see the lambda functions usage in higher order functions, right? So now let's see how we can make use of these lambda functions also in this built-in higher order functions. So when it comes to map function, map is a function that applies function to each and every item in the iterable. Okay. So when it comes to syntax, this map function will take two parameters. One is a function and the other one is a iterable. Iterable means any sequence data types that includes strings, lists, tuples, dictionaries. All these comes under iterables. So whatever the iterables or collection of items that we can pass as one of the parameter here, this function can be applied to each and every item that is present in the iterable. Okay. That means map function maps each maps function map function applies function to each and every item in the iterable. So similarly, for filter built-in higher order functions also we have the same syntax applicable, but the keyword will be different. Filter of function comma iterable. Like this filter, what this filter function will do means this filter function also checks applies this apply so this function to each and every item in the iterable, but whatever the item that satisfies the condition, only those items will be returned back in the output. Means a function that is satisfying the condition, not function like whatever the item that is satisfying the condition, this filter function is going to return back. Okay, now let's see the examples of this map and filter built-in higher order functions. So the first example I have demonstrated using map function. So wherein I have declared one list named num underscore list. This list is holding 1, 2, 3 elements in it. So in the second line, what I was doing, I want to make use of map built-in higher order function, and I want to map and I want to iterate through each and every item in the iterable, and then I want to print those elements in the process each and every item, and then I want to finally convert those items like finally I want to store those elements processed items into list. So here you can see, forget about list first, like let's see from a map of inside parenthesis what we need to pass. First parameter we need to pass as a function. So function, in terms of function, what I was passing lambda function, defining like this: lambda keyword space, and then followed by a parameter x, followed by the expression after colon. So expression is x into 2, like whatever the value that I will get from this iterable, from this list, for each and every item I want to do multiplication. Okay. And so inside this map function, I have defined the lambda function, comma, one iterable I need to pass, right? So the iterable is nothing but here is list. So like this, inside this map function, I have passed 2 parameters. And then if you can see here, I want to convert the elements, processed items into list. Like I want to store those processed items into list. Why? Because if I didn't do like if didn't do like this, means like whatever the result will be like this, like map always returns an object in its output. So here you can see, if I didn't convert processed items into list, means then it will give the memory reference like this. I don't want this memory reference, like I want the processed items. So in order to get those processed items, we need to convert or store those items in the form of iterables. Like in place of list, we can make use of tuple or else some other tuples string, no strings, dictionaries. Like since we have not don't have a key value pair, so like dictionary will not be applicable here. So in terms of in place of list, we can have a tuple as well. So that's why I was since map is returning since map returns an object which is a memory reference, which I don't want. So that's why I was storing the items in the form of list by converting that object into list. Okay. And then I was printing finally the result. So what Python compiler will do, like whenever this statement will execute, so this lambda function will be called. So in this lambda function, what we are doing, for each and every item in this list, we are multiplying each and every item. So 1 is multiplied with 2, 2 is multiplied with 2, 4, and 3 is multiplied with 2, 6. So all these items are object references. All these items will be an object. So that object is it will convert into list finally, and then that list is returned, and that list return list will hold three items in it, 3 elements in it, 2, 4, 6. So this is how we can make use of map built-in higher order functions along with the lambda function. Of course, we can make use of built-in higher order functions along with our custom functions as well. But since I want to show you like how we can make use of lambda functions, so that's why I have demonstrated this example along with lambda functions. And if you can see the example using filter function. So here also I have defined one list, since filter also will takes 2 parameters. One is function and iterable. So I need to define one iterable. So which is a list I have defined here. And then in the next line, I need to call the filter function. Forget about this list first, like think that we need to call the filter function by passing the function as one of the parameter and iterable. So here what I was doing, so in the above example, I was doing multiplication like some small expression. But since filter will filters applies the condition to each and every item. This filter will applies applies the condition to each and every item, right? So that's why I was defined one expression where I was taking x divided by 2 double equals to 0. So whenever a particular item divided by 2 is equals to 0, then it returns true, right? Then it returns true. Like whenever the condition is satisfied, that item only I want to store in the form of list. I want to store. So that's why I have given this condition. So this condition will be applied to each and every item in this iterable. So this iterable is num list we have here. And then finally, since like map, this filter function also returns object in its as its result. So object itself will be look like this, like it will finally returns memory reference, which we don't want. So that's why object is object, that object we need to convert into any iterable. So here I was converting that object into list that will store the list of items finally that satisfies the condition. And finally I was printing this result. So the output will become 2 comma 4. Like first item is a 2. So 2 divided by checks this condition on this item. 2 divided by 2 is equals to 0. The condition becomes true, it returns true. The condition is satisfied, it returns true. And whatever the element that satisfied the condition will be stored in the list. So finally, and so on, the last item is will not satisfy the condition. 7 divided by 2 not equals to 0. So that is omitted from the list, since that is not going to, since that will not satisfy the condition. So that is omitted from the list. So like this, we can make use of built-in higher order functions as well, along with the custom defined functions. So this is all about Lambda functions and higher order functions, along with this, with the examples and properties. So that's all for today. I hope you like this session. If you have any doubts, feel free to post them in the comment section. We'll definitely answer your questions, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, take care, goodbye, and enjoy programming.